This is a story I haven't told many people. It happened when I was in third grade, and it's a day I've replayed in my mind countless times. I was in the bathroom just washing my hands when the lockdown alarm started blaring. It wasn't a drill. The tone was different, more urgent, and you could feel the panic in the air even through the thick concrete walls. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was completely alone. My first instinct was to hide, so I scrambled into the nearest stall, locked the flimsy door, and flicked off the lights, plunging the room into near darkness. I pulled my feet up onto the toilet seat, trying to make myself as small and invisible as possible. Every sound was amplified. The distant shouts, the slamming of doors, and my own ragged breathing. Minutes felt like hours. I just sat there, frozen, listening. Then I heard it. The slow creak of the bathroom door swinging open, followed by heavy footsteps on the tiled floor. My blood ran cold. Someone was in here with me. The footsteps stopped. They stopped right in front of my stall. I could see the dark shape of their shoes under the gap in the door. I held my breath, squeezing my eyes shut, convinced this was it. I thought about my mom, my dad, my little brother. I was sure I was about to die. Every muscle in my body was tensed, waiting for the door to be kicked in. But after what felt like an eternity, probably only a few seconds, the footsteps moved away. The bathroom door creaked open and then shut again. I was alone once more. I stayed put, too terrified to move, to even breathe properly. I didn't know if it was safe. A little while later, a scream echoed from down the hall. A short, sharp scream that was cut off abruptly. It was a sound I will never forget. It chilled me to the bone. That was the moment the reality of the situation truly hit me. This wasn't a movie. This was real, and something terrible was happening right outside this bathroom. I just continued to hide, shaking uncontrollably, until a police officer, a woman with a kind but serious face, found me. She gently coaxed me out of the stall and escorted me outside with the other students. The school grounds were swarming with police cars and ambulances. Parents were everywhere, crying, searching for their kids. I found my mom in the crowd, and I've never been so relieved to feel her arms around me. Later, we found out what happened. The intruder wasn't a random attacker. He had come to the school specifically to hurt one student, the son of his ex-girlfriend. He had managed to get into a classroom and attack the child before he was subdued and caught. Thankfully, the student survived, but he was badly injured. The scream I heard, that was from their classroom. The person who had stood outside my stall was the attacker. He was checking the bathrooms looking for his target. If he had been looking for just any kid, any victim, that could have been me. It's a chilling thought that I live with. That day changed everything. For a long time, I was terrified of public restrooms, of sudden loud noises, of being alone. It's an invisible weight that you carry. It's a reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly everything can change. I still think about that day often, especially when I hear about similar events in the news. It brings it all back. I think about how close I came to not making it home. It reminds me to cherish every moment, to hold my loved ones a little tighter, because you just never know. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've been through something similar, know that you're not alone, and it's okay to talk about it. Take care of yourselves. This story is something I've carried with me for years, and it started on a completely normal school day. I was a high school senior, and like any other day, I asked to use the restroom during class. I went into the stall, and for some reason, I just happened to look up. My heart stopped. Tucked away in the corner of the ceiling, almost perfectly hidden, was a tiny black lens staring right back at me. It was a camera. For a second, I thought I was imagining things. I mean, who would put a camera in a school bathroom? But it was real. My mind started racing. How long had it been there? Who put it there? A wave of panic washed over me. I felt sick to my stomach, violated. I didn't even stop to think. I just bolted out of the bathroom, my hand shaking, and ran straight to the principal's office. I burst in, probably looking completely frantic, and blurted out, "There's a camera in the girls' bathroom." The principal and the vice principal looked at me with a mix of shock and skepticism. I think they wanted to believe I was mistaken, that it was just a part of the light fixture or something. But I was so insistent, so terrified, they knew they had to check. They went to the bathroom with a janitor, and I waited in the office, my leg bouncing uncontrollably. A few minutes later, which felt like an eternity, they came back. Their faces were pale. They confirmed it. There was a hidden camera, and it was active. The school immediately called the police. The whole place went on a soft lockdown while the officers arrived and started their investigation. They carefully removed the camera and began to piece together how it got there. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Whispers turned into rumors. Everyone was scared, especially the girls. We all felt this deep sense of betrayal and fear. Our school, a place where we were supposed to feel safe, had been compromised in the most disturbing way. The police investigation took a few weeks, and the waiting was agonizing. We were all on edge, wondering who could have done this. Was it a student, a staff member? The uncertainty was almost as bad as the act itself. The school held assemblies, trying to reassure us, but it was hard to feel safe when our privacy had been so brutally invaded. Counselors were made available, and many of us, myself included, went to talk to them. We needed an outlet for the anger, the fear, and the sheer disgust we were all feeling. Then the news broke. The police had made an arrest, and the culprit was someone nobody would have suspected. It was a former student, a guy who had graduated a couple of years earlier. He had been volunteering at the school, helping out with the tech department. He used his access and knowledge of the school's layout to install the camera. The police discovered he had been secretly recording students for weeks, collecting hours of footage. When we heard who it was just another layer of shock. He was a familiar face, someone who seemed normal, helpful even. The thought that he had been walking the halls, smiling at us, while secretly committing such a disgusting act was chilling. He was arrested and faced serious charges, but knowing he was caught didn't just erase the damage he had done. Even after he was behind bars, the psychological impact lingered. The feeling of being watched became a constant shadow in my life. For months, I avoided using public restrooms whenever I could. If I had to, I'd meticulously scan every inch of the room, the ceilings, behind the mirrors. It became a compulsive habit. That sense of security I once had was completely shattered. Now, years later, I'm an adult. I've moved on so many ways, but this one thing has stuck with me. To this day, every time I walk into a public bathroom, my eyes automatically drift upwards. I still check the ceilings. It's a reflex I can't seem to turn off. That high school senior who ran to the principal's office is still a part of me, forever looking over her shoulder, afraid of what might be hiding in the corners. This experience taught me a harsh lesson about trust and safety. And it's a story I'm sharing because privacy is so fragile, and we need to be vigilant. Thank you for listening. If you have a story that stuck with you, I'd be interested to hear it in the comments. Please be kind and respectful to one another. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Ever since I was a kid, I'd heard stories about the old Northwood Elementary. They say it's haunted, that strange things happen there after dark. Most people just dismissed them as urban legends, but I always felt a pull, a morbid curiosity I just couldn't shake. So, one night, armed with nothing but a heavy-duty flashlight and a ridiculous amount of bravado, I decided to see for myself. Finding a way in was surprisingly easy. A window on the ground floor had been boarded up, but the wood was rotten and gave way with a single, firm push. The air that hit me was thick, stale, and smelled of dust and decay. It was like stepping into a time capsule. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing peeling paint, overturned desks, and papers scattered across the floor like dead leaves. As I walked, the silence was the most unsettling part. My footsteps echoed unnaturally loud in the long empty corridors. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle from some unseen corner made my heart pound in my chest. The deeper I ventured into the school, the more the temperature seemed to drop. It wasn't just a normal chill. It was a biting, unnatural cold that seeped into my bones, making my breath fog in front of my face. I passed by the old gymnasium, the cafeteria, the library. Moonlight streamed through the grimy windows, painting eerie silver shapes on the walls. I felt like I was being watched, a constant prickling sensation on the back of my neck. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, my nerves getting the better of me. But then I saw the door at the end of the hall. The paint was almost completely gone, but I could just make out the numbers. 104. Something about that room felt different. The air around it was even colder, almost freezing. A sense of dread washed over me, a powerful instinct screaming at me to turn back. But I couldn't. I had to know what was inside. I pushed the door open. It groaned on its rusty hinges, the sound echoing down the hallway like a mournful cry. The room was a standard classroom, or what was left of it. Small wooden desks were arranged in neat rows, covered in a thick layer of dust. Children's drawings were still tacked to a bulletin board, their bright colors faded to muted, ghostly shades. My light swept across the room and landed on the large green chalkboard at the front. It was covered in faded chalk marks, the ghosts of old lessons. That's when I heard it. A faint sound like the rustling of leaves in the wind. I held my breath, listening. It grew louder, clearer. It was whispering, faint, ethereal voices like the ones you hear in a dream. I couldn't make out the words at first, but as I stood there, frozen in place, they became distinct. They were children's voices, and they were begging. "Help us," they whispered, the sound seeming to come from all around me. "We're so cold. Please, help us." My blood ran cold. This wasn't my imagination. The whispers swirled around me, a chorus of tiny, desperate voices. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight steady. I wanted to run, to get out of that room, out of that school, but my feet were glued to the floor. My eyes were fixed on the chalkboard. And then something happened that I will never be able to explain. Right before my eyes, new words started to form on the dusty green surface. White lines appeared out of nowhere, slowly, deliberately, as if an invisible hand was writing them. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The chalky letters spelled out a simple, terrifying message. We never left. The moment the last letter appeared, the whispers stopped. A dead silence fell over the room, heavier and more menacing than before. Then, the silence was shattered by a scream. Not one, but dozens. The desperate whispers had transformed into piercing, agonized cries of children. They were everywhere inside my head, echoing off the walls, a tidal wave of pure terror. That's what finally broke my paralysis. I turned and ran. I didn't look back. I sprinted out of room 104, the sound of wailing children chasing me down the hall. It felt like their invisible hands were clawing at my back, trying to pull me back. The cold intensified, and it felt like the very walls of the building were closing in. The school itself trying to swallow me whole, to make me stay with them forever. I burst out of the broken window, gasping for the fresh night air, my lungs burning. I didn't stop running until the old school was just a dark silhouette against the moonlit sky. I never went back. I don't know what happened in that school, who those children were, or why they're still there. But I'll never forget their voices, their cries, or those 3 words on the chalkboard. We never left. Some places hold on to their stories, and Northwood Elementary isn't ready to let go of its own. Thanks for listening. If you have any stories like this, share them in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more unexplained encounters. Stay safe out there.